What is going on, YouTube? Welcome to the SAP Wrestling Review. Coming to you live. Tonight, we're going over the TLC pay-per-view. Tables, Ladders, and Chairs, brought to you by WWE on 12/20 Sunday. I am one of your hosts, 617. This guy to my left, PuppetMaster2191. Wrestling fan. He's been watching wrestling since God knows when, probably since he was a kid and was sat up.
Yes.
So, tonight, we're going over TLC. Probably the greatest pay-per-view besides WrestleMania that the actual WWE main roster put on for this entire year. I don't know, man. We're just it's hard to describe it, man. Every match was hard hitting, sold the stories, and Puppet, what do you think?
Honestly, I will agree. Probably the best pay-per-view aside from Mania. Mainly Mania being, for me, night one was better than night two, even though night two was supposed to be the bigger payoff. But I think that they could have put Undertaker and Drew McIntyre on the same night. I get why they didn't, but yeah, that was my takeaway. Was the stories were told very nice in this pay-per-view. The build-up for the stories, except for one match really didn't have a build-up. It was just kind of, hey, this is going to be a match. But the stories were told really good.
Let's kick it off. Let's jump in. The first match on the card for the night, a TLC match for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship between Drew McIntyre. This was really good. I mean, it was hard hitting. I came in like maybe 5-10 minutes into it, but both superstars came out there. They put on a really good show. They both showed that they were. I mean, AJ Styles showed that he is still a phenomenal one. He went toe to toe with McIntyre. He took everything that McIntyre had and kept fighting.
Yes. I really liked the whole dynamic of McIntyre kind of keeping an eye on AJ's bodyguard. Like, I liked the dynamic there. The bodyguard really didn't get involved.
Till the very end. But we'll get to
that. I wasn't, as far as, like, for the majority of the match, the bodyguard wasn't really an issue other than McIntyre just kind of kept an eye on him.
Right.
The match was very, like you said, very hard hitting. Of course, you got to be. It's a TLC match, and you're starting off the TLC pay-per-view with a TLC match, not just a TLC match, but one of your championship TLC matches.
Two on the night? Yeah.
Yeah, there was two. Honestly, I feel like it shouldn't have started the show. Mainly because it's one of your two major titles.
Right.
Now, did it set the bar for the preview? Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
It set it high, and the rest of the pay-per-view carried it.
I mean, and honestly, I mean, it was there was debate leading up to the show on whether they were going to use this match to start it or they were going to use the Fiend versus Randy Orton match to start the show. But at the last minute, they decided to use this one and push the Fiend, the Firefly Inferno match to the last of the card to better sell the story. and everything. Plus, with everything that went down in the match, the way it was done, the way they, I guess I can go ahead and say, the way it was a pre-recorded match that was done earlier in the afternoon. With the way the match ended, it would be hard to explain why everything was normal the rest of the card if they led with the Inferno match. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they could have started with that match, especially with how that match ended. It just would have threw everything off.
Yeah, true. Good match. I mean, both competitors, and it was hard hitting and everything. You know, there was some foreshadowing leading up to this event, leading up to this match and everything. With, I guess, Miz kind of dropping some cryptic messages during the pre-show about the possibility that he may cash in on somebody.
Yeah, and there
didn't really specify.
There was build up, which there was build up in like the weeks, last couple of weeks on Raw leading into this with the Miz and the Money in the Bank briefcase. Yeah. And then on the pre-show there was a very good snippet with the Miz and Morrison and the pre-show hosts, and when they walked off, Jarrett was looking at Booker T, and Jeff Jarrett kept saying he's going to cash in tonight. It was almost like a feeling, you could tell.
Right.
The match has a good back and forth, a good story being told. AJ starts working on McIntyre's leg with calf crusher. He uses the ladder in one instance and the chair in another with the calf crusher, which was really intriguing, really interesting to see. The chair, especially with the chair, because of how the chair was positioned and everything, it looked almost like it was a little too difficult to get the calf crusher locked in the correct way. Not as hard with the ladder, because ladder kind of in reality the one side of the ladder is roughly the same width as like AJ's shin would have been, so it was more natural to do. But it was AJ working the leg and the knee of McIntyre. Of course, you can't climb a ladder if you have one leg.
Right.
The theory, yeah, the theory is if you don't have the wheels to climb, you don't really have the ability to win the match. Which, yes, it's a sound strategy. It does hinder them being able to climb. It's not that they can't climb it. No, obviously they can, but it's a lot harder to climb when you've got a hurt leg to put weight on that leg to climb up a rock.
Right, you got to use more of your upper body, yourself up, and hold yourself to get that other leg up to the next run.
Yeah,
and it was good to see the effective use of all of the during the match too. Seeing both competitors using the ladders, the tables, the chairs to their advantage. Yeah, you don't see that a lot.
No, not at all. Most of the time it's focused on chairs.
Right.
Then your ladder spots is throwing a ladder or shoving a ladder or throwing someone into the ladder.
Right.
And then
draping the ladder tables across the apron and the barricade and backdrop. Yeah,
and then your tables are just kind of set in positions to where you can knock them off ladders, and they just happen to go through the table.
Right. Exactly.
Now, in this instance, there was more I'm almost positive there's more table usage in the second TLC match.
Yeah, there was.
I think in this one it was more or less they were positioned where they needed to be.
It was
for,
mainly just getting the tables out and positioning it for of the match and everything. Which brings us to it.
Yeah, which I'd say probably about 80% through the match.
Probably around 90% because when 90%. It happened, the match was almost over anyway. Both men were laid out and everything, and then the Miz's music hits, and him and Morrison come running down to the ring. Of course, Morrison's the one carrying the damn briefcase, going to the ref and like, "We're cashing in." Like, no shit, Sherlock. Gotta yell, we're cashing in 1,000. Doing. No one gives a fuck.
It was the Miz comes down to cash in. Morrison's handing the briefcase over. Where I think they could have done this better is you've got Morrison turning in the briefcase.
It should have been climbing the ladder.
Well, I think it would have been an interesting little plot twist to have, since Morrison was the one handing in the briefcase, it was Morrison cashing in.
Right. That would have really screwed everything up for me. He'd have been pissed at that.
But I think it could have potentially led to a really intriguing story.
For sure.
Because technically, the person that's turning in the briefcase is the one cashing in the contract.
Right.
So technically, Morrison was the one cashing in the briefcase.
And I mean, if you think about it and you listen, Morrison said, "We're cashing in."
Yeah.
He didn't say Miz is cashing in. He didn't say he's cashing in. He was screaming, "We're cashing in."
Yeah.
Basically leads me to believe that if the Miz actually climbs a ladder and gets the belt, that it's going to be like a share championship between the two of them, which could possibly down the road lead to a feud between the two because Miz don't like to share.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of little things that a lot of people don't pick up whenever.
And, like I said, you could take that cash in and turn it a few different ways to make for an interesting story. I think it would have been awesome to had seen the cash in and like the debacle side of things where like Miz and Morrison weren't on the same page even though they thought they were.
Right. I think it would have been funny as hell, like when they did the cash in for like Morrison to climb the ladder at the same time Miz, and both of them grab the belt at the same time. Be like, Miz would just be like, "What are you doing?" And Morrison's like, "I cashed in the briefcase. You didn't."
Right.
It's like, "I'm the champion, not you. I cashed it in." And Miz would be like, "But I'm the one that beat Otis for it." He's like, "You beat Otis with the help of Tucker."
Right. And you know what's funny about ladder matches is they've done it in the past to where people win ladder matches that weren't even entered into the ladder match to begin with.
Right.
Because the thing is, you just got to climb the ladder and get the object. In this case, it's the title. So by technicality, they could have done it without cashing in.
Right.
Which,
oh, hell, it could have just been a fluke. They could have been standing on top of the ladder and fighting over the belt and drop the belt, and either Drew McIntyre or AJ just have to be standing below like Otis was and catch the motherfucker, and boom, you're the champion.
Right. Like, and that's the thing. Like, there's several ways that could have. There's several different finishes, especially with when you involve the Money in the Bank, you involve the Bodyguard, you involve Miz and Morrison. you have several possible outs for this match at that point.
Right.
Not saying that the one that they did was not good, because it was. It was a very entertaining, but you stop and you look at all the different possibilities, then you're looking at potential ways that this could have been booked differently, and that's mainly what I'm getting at, because I'll be absolutely honest with you, I love the way that this match ended. You had the bodyguard peel the Miz off the ladder.
Well, you see, they come out, Miz pushes McIntyre out of the ring, and then the camera focuses on Morrison and the ref, and Morrison screaming, "We're cashing in, we're cashing in." So my guess is Miz hit the skull-crushing finale on AJ or something to make sure he was down. And then when the camera pans back, Miz is climbing up the ladder, going for the belt, and in the background you can see Omos getting in the ring, and he walks over and just grabs AJ, or he grabs Miz and pulls him down and just holds him in a fucking cradle, and walks over to the edge of the ring where there's conveniently a table standing up, and just hangs him out and drops him through the table. And then the best part of the match is right after that. You see Morrison get up, he grabs the fucking chair, full steam, runs at Omos, and just whacks him across the back. Omos doesn't even budge, and the chair just splinters. And then the back of the chair comes off, and he's just sitting there looking at the chair like, what the hell? And they looked at Omos, and he's like, oh shit.
The lip of the chair folds over, the seat of the chair comes flying off, and Morrison's holding this chair, just kind of looking at it like, and he just kind of throws it to the side and takes off running. Which in that instance, almost ends up going after Morrison. So now Morrison and Miz are out of the picture, and you're down to the Miz. You're down to the Miz, AJ Styles, and McIntyre.
Now we're actually in the normal match. Back to the normal TLC match, but it's a triple threat match. But I think one of the ways that they could have gone with this is when Miz cashed in, is it could have been just done as like a regular match. Like they could have cashed it in, Miz could have pinned AJ and been done. Like they're right there on the stream is the image now of right after Morrison nailed Omos with the chair. He's just like,
and it was a really good, like, my outlook on it was, it was really good the way that they did it.
Right.
Yeah, look at that lip just folded over. But I like that it ended up all three of them. I believe it was all three of them. Somewhat standing, and then McIntyre pushing the ladder with the Miz and AJ on top of it over.
Right.
AJ topples over the top. Miz hits the top rope and kind of bounces back from it and eats the Claymore kick. And then McIntyre climbs the top and retrieves his title.
Retains the title. So here you go. For the second time in history, the Money in the Bank was cashed in. Failed.
Third?
Yeah, third time. Now, what I was reading up on and doing a little research on was the reason that they had the Miz fail to cash in is Miz's whole Money in the Bank run for this year wasn't centered around him capturing the title. It was mainly centered around him chasing the Money in the Bank. They had no intentions of him actually cashing in and being successful and winning. It was more of you're chasing after the title. You're chasing after the Money in the Bank more than...
Yeah, because And that kind of leads back to how Money in the Bank ended, because one of the two that were fighting over the briefcase was Miz, and then he lost control of the briefcase, and Otis was standing there, and it fell in his arms, and that's when the match was called,
Right.
because one man had the definitive possession of the briefcase.
Right.
So I liked the different aspects of everything as far as that went. Of course, a lot of people had issues with the Miz getting the Money in the Bank briefcase from Otis, but it's like I said, the whole Otis getting the briefcase is what started Otis's push.
Right. Exactly.
And
Otis was a fan favorite and everything, and I think Otis had started to lose some steam on it, which is why they decided to put that feud with him and Miz and give the Money in the Bank to Miz. That way they could, continue the Otis being the fan favorite. Boost him higher, get the fans rallying behind him more now that he's no longer, that he basically was robbed.
Well, okay. So what it was he had the Money in the Bank briefcase. Miz was trying to get it back or get it from him. Well, then he pulled some strings and had Mandy Rose sent to Raw. So that's the first big thing against Otis, where people are like, "Oh, come on, not this." And then you had the brand split, and Heavy Machinery is split, and then the Miz and Morrison are sent to Raw, and you've got like that whole dynamic of everything's been tore from Otis.
Why not one more thing?
And it's one of those things where, as things get tore away from Otis, people are really getting behind him and, the underdog story. And it's like, well, he's got the Money in the Bank briefcase that he's going to cash in. Well, the problem is, are you going to have him cash in against Roman Reigns and basically topple the entire story that you're building with Reigns?
Right.
Can you do that? Can you topple the story that you're building with McIntyre?
Yeah, it wouldn't have worked with the Roman Reigns Owens match or anything like that, because it wouldn't work against Roman Reigns because he's always got Uso right there. So
correct, and then that was the thing. Like, if you stop and you look at it, when Otis lost the Money in the Bank briefcase, the opportunity that he had to cash it in was against Reigns, but it was while Jay was facing Reigns. So if you cash in during that moment, Jay's still going to get involved.
Right. And you're destroying the momentum of the family, the bloodline storyline.
Correct.
I mean, right now, the only real thing that McIntyre is going is just basically squashing everybody. But the difference between McIntyre squashing everybody and Brock Lesnar squashing everybody is you see McIntyre every week. McIntyre's on Raw every fucking week. Whereas Lesnar was only on Raw whenever he had a big match coming up on one of the big name pay-per-views. So,
correct.
I get behind the whole McIntyre being the champion over more than I do Brock Lesnar. Yeah, McIntyre's a big guy. He bulked up big time during the off time. He went from being a nobody in 3MB to what he is now. So, kudos to him.
Him and Mahal both.
And you notice what they did too, right? Jinder Mahal made his return from 3MB first, and they put the strap on him, and they gave him a run with the championship because he turned everything around. And then as soon as McIntyre came back, bulked up and everything, they slapped him with a new attitude, and they did the exact same thing that they did with Mahal. Now the only person they haven't done that with is what's his name?
Slater?
Slater. Because Slater's still the same little runt that he was in 3MB.
Well, no, they couldn't do it with Slater if they wanted to now.
That's right, he's gone now.
He's signed to a contract with Impact.
Oh.
He was part of that Black Wednesday.
It just goes to show you, in the WWE, if you want to be champion, then you gotta take a bunch of anabolic steroids and bulk up and then get off the steroids just in time for a PED test. So, you hear that?
No, because I know with Mahal and McIntyre that it wasn't anything like that. It was, with McIntyre especially, it was a depression and him going back home and him saying, you know what, I was marked as the chosen one and this utterly failed, so I need to get everything together and put out my mission statement. And his mission statement was legitimately done by going back home and going to ICW. And like when he got there, he was already more defined than what he was when he left the WWE.
I know, because I saw in an interview that Mahal did. He said when he first got back to WWE, before they put him on TV, the first thing they did was they sent him for a test.
Yeah.
They sent him for a piss test because they wanted to make sure there's nothing in the system, because you go from this little scrawny little runt to this fucking muscle-bound powerhouse, almost looking like a bodybuilder now. You know, anybody's going to be suspicious. And he said that over the course of his first month before he made his in-ring debut back on WWE, he had 3 random tests. Well, he had 1 test scheduled, and then he had 2 other random tests.
2 randoms, yeah.
Before they put him on TV, because they wanted to make sure he was clean. And he says they even went as far as like doing hair and blood tests on him just to make sure there's nothing, you know, hiding. Make sure he's not, you know, taking something before the test to clean his system out.
Correct.
He's like, no, he's like, I did this legit. He's like, I just worked hard in the gym and everything and bulked up. Alright, that match concludes. McIntyre retains. My rating for that match was a 10 of 10. It was hard hitting. It had the suspense of Miz coming in, giving everybody the thought that Miz was going to cash in and steal the title, and then we'd have to deal with running his mouth more often as the champion. So,
right. Now I did give it I gave it a 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10. Mainly because the story that was told was a good story. The cash in was good. The like all of that played in the way that it should have. And the story that they'd been building for the last few weeks with the whole McIntyre, Miz, AJ Styles thing played out really well in that aspect. Now, what I liked was the follow-up, and that was where AJ was like, just so I'm clear on this, the whole reason that this happened is entirely the Miz's fault. Like, that was hilarious.
Right.
For it being what, you know, everyone was like, well, this is just going to be another, you know, this, that. No, it was actually it was a plan to be distracting to McIntyre, but it turned out being, it cost AJ the ability to get the title.
Right.
Which can lead to a very interesting story with AJ and Miz, with Miz and McIntyre. Just kind of between all of them, you know what I mean? Because I think the next night on Raw, or the Raw after TLC, I think the main event was Sheamus, McIntyre, Keith Lee against Miz, Morrison, and AJ. And then that was won by McIntyre, Lee, and Sheamus, with Sheamus hitting a brogue kick on Keith Lee after the match. So that's kind of something that's what no one's really sure what's being built there. If it's a match between McIntyre and Sheamus or Lee and Sheamus.
I mean, it's end of the year now, so who the hell knows? We won't see
Right.
anything definitive until January, leading up to Raw.
Yeah.
Plus, I don't know how well they're going to put Keith Lee in any situation right now in any good matches, because he's still working on his in-ring skills and everything. So
I don't know. Lee was the one that won the match, main event on Raw. So I don't know.
they may put Keith Lee up against
that could be one of those where the report is they're being sent to do extra workouts to improve their in-ring talent or to hone their in-ring skills because they don't have the house shows. And it could be one of those. It's not that they don't have faith in him; they just want to get them polished up faster.
I mean, they could be leading up to a triple threat at Raw.
They could be. I don't know.
Oh, we'll see in the future episodes of Raw coming up, leading up to Rumble. All right, match 2 on the card. SmackDown Women's Championship match. Sasha Banks defending against Carmella. I did not know Carmella was back. This one was kind of a shocker for me to see her back.
Yeah,
especially with new ring attire, new entrance, and a completely new attitude.
They started her vignettes leading into the pay-per-view where Bayley beat Sasha.
Yeah.
For the title. And then, which I think it was Survivor Series, wasn't it? No.
Yeah. No, it was before that.
Hell in a Cell.
Hell in a Cell. Because they were in the cell, because Sasha was talking about she was out of Bayley, and she said, I don't need any weapons to beat.
Yeah.
Overall, I mean, good match between these two.
Oh, yeah.
They came out, they both put a lot of back and forth between both women. The valet, whatever they call it.
The sommelier.
Sommelier came into play a couple times, mainly with catching
the wine expert.
Yeah. Where she caught Carmella a couple times, and at one point I remember like Sasha dumped Carmella off and he caught her, was like checking on her, making sure she's okay, and then he just happened to look over his shoulder and see Sasha's coming over the top rope at him. So he dumps Carmella and just takes the
Meteora.
Yeah, he takes the Meteora instead of Carmella, so
like, it was a very interesting match.
Yeah, I think the funny part, what really made this, was the fact that Carmella's boyfriend, Corey Graves, is on the commentary just hyping her up. And
oh, yeah.
Like, I get it, dude. You're a heel commentator, but kind of went over the top on this one. Like, you made it clear as day that the two of you are dating. You know, kayfabe is pretty much dead when it comes to them. Social media pretty much killed. As soon as they announced that they were together, it's hard to believe anything Corey says.
It is. Like, it's it's very interesting. When it does come to the commentary in our matches with Corey Graves out there, because he really plays more into the whole old school heel color commentator in that aspect.
Reminds me a lot of Jerry.
Yeah, well, it reminds me Jerry Lawler, Bobby Heenan era, where you had one that was the good side of things, and you had one that was always the bad side of things.
Right. And it's hard to get, the good and the bad when you've got three. I guess that's why Samoa Joe didn't really say much when he's out there. It's just, I don't know. I mean, I digged it, the old school Raw, when it was just Jerry Lawler and Jim Ross. And then when Ross left, they brought in Michael Cole, which was, I don't know what they were trying to play at, because both of them seemed like they were trying to do the heel side of comedy. Do that. And you mainly got Michael Cole being the heel side because nobody liked Michael.
And see, I can go further back on the commentary. I remember when it was on Raw, it was McMahon, Macho, Vince, Macho, and Bobby Heenan. And then it was just Vince and Macho, or Vince and Heenan, but it was mainly a two-man. It was a two-man, three-man booth at the time. Prior to that, you had like Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan. That is one of my favorite commentary booths, besides Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler. Just hearing Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan going back and forth was it great.
Was it the match where Corey kept screwing up different moves, or was it?
No, Michael Cole did. Yeah. Called a power bomb, a spine buster. Like
spine buster, like, dude, that's nowhere near a spine.
I don't. That was not a spine buster. Like, that was, which is very rare to see Michael Cole make those mistakes.
He got his ass chewed out. So, Michael, at this point,
so it was kind of. I was like, so that spine buster, huh? Yeah, no, it was a power bomb.
Right.
Like, and I doubt that he got his ass chewed. I'm pretty sure he was getting the heavy ribs. So how about that spine buster, Michael?
Well, the funny thing about the whole commentary system is Vince is in the back and he's listening to everything that they say. They're feeding him what they should say, and he's listening for screw ups. And I remember, like, Jim Ross made a statement at one point that as long as Vince is talking, you're fine. When he's telling you, good this, say this, blah, blah, blah. But as soon as Vince goes quiet, you're fucked.
Yeah.
I think at that point, when he screwed that up, I think at that point Vince went quiet, because you notice Michael Cole went quiet, too. And then Corey Graves and Samoa Joe started kind of taking over. Michael Cole was quiet for a good 5 minutes after that.
Samoa wasn't on that booth. SmackDown booth is just Michael and Corey. But yes, Michael Cole was very silent, and Michael Cole was Corey Graves was doing more talking. But the two women had an amazing match.
A lot of trash.
Yeah, there was a lot of back and forth, which was really good. Yeah, that was really good. But you also have, like, it ended up with Sasha going for the bank statement and really just wrenching that thing back.
You knew the match was over because she was rocking back. And of course, at that point, Carmella had nowhere to go. Her sommelier couldn't get her out. But wait, there was one instance where Banks had put her in the bank statement, While the ref was trying to see if Carmella was going to tap out, her sommelier did reach in and grab her leg and pull her.
Yeah.
Early on. Which at that point, it's hands up. Should that have been a disqualification? I mean, he interfered in the match, but on the other hand, he didn't attack Sasha. He helped Carmella get her out of the ring.
So the thing about that one is, would really issue it as a disqualification. That would have been one of those moments. Do you send him to the back?
Right. Ejecting.
Yeah. And that's one of those. That's also one of those moments where you can send him to the back, but if you send him to the back and everything, is that the distraction that Carmella needs to pull some stunt? How exactly do you
play that?
Yeah. How do you play that one out without it being...
Right, plus that was early in the match, and there was a couple other instances where he came in and helped Carmella. Caught her that one time. Although those little spots wouldn't have been in the match and wouldn't have made the match what it is had they.
Correct.
So, into the match, Sasha locks in the bank statement, wrenches it in, Carmella taps out. Sasha retains the Women's Championship. SmackDown Women's Championship. I rated it a 9 out of 10. It was a good match and everything. I just feel like there could have been a little bit.
Yeah, that's my thing. I gave it a 9 out of 10. It was a really good match.
Right, when you're following the McIntyre AJ Styles / Miz match, it's kind of hard to go out there and top it. Got to, but it's hard to.
Yes.
Next match. Third match on the card. Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin from the Hurt Business taking on the New Day for the Raw Tag Team Championship.
This was my favorite. This was one of my favorite matches of the night.
This was good. There was a lot of trash talking in this one as well. Especially
there was a lot of trash talking, and there was a lot of story.
Right. Coming from the New Day on this one. And of course, Hurt Business, you've got MVP outside the ring. And no Bobby Lashley. He didn't come out. He stayed in the... So...
And I really liked the talking that was coming from MVP. Because you had Alexander start the match with Woods, and literally 2 moves in, you hear MVP on the outside, tag Shelton. This is not what we talked about. Tag Shelton. And it was one of those moments where Alexander was essentially just getting his ass beat.
Right.
And MVP's yelling at Alexander to get to Shelton.
Right.
And then when you do get, when he finally does make the tag and he rolls out, you hear MVP, okay, now compose yourself. Here. And he pulls a water bottle out of his pocket. Drink some water. You need some water.
I think that's what makes the Hurt Business great. It's just MVP on the outside, just improvising and... MVP is better as a manager than he was.
And it's funny because as he hands him the water, he's like, now what? Shelton's going to show you how we should have started this match. No, I know. Yeah, just... You need some water. Drink some water.
Just watch.
And that's Xavier Woods comes over and gets Alexander while they're outside the ring and pulls him over to the New Day's corner, and you hear MVP go, hey, what are you doing? Get back over here.
Right. Get over here.
And to me, that was... that kind of falls back into that whole I really like that dynamic. And I'm not going to lie, this is actually a really good photo of Hurt Business
Right.
now. Granted, spoiler alert, you're going to see who won the match, but
Right.
it's a really good photo. Um, you know, but you've got that entire dynamic going
Right.
with the Hurt Business. You've got Bobby Lashley, you've got Shelton Benjamin, you've got Cedric Alexander, and you've got MVP. And it's one of those moments where all that talent that you do have there. I said this while we were watching it. I really like this whole Hurt Business stable.
Yeah.
I like it. They need something.
I like when
they need something to go with it.
Right. I like when they put on matches like this. Because
yes,
both teams are landing their spots and everything. And I don't like the, Bobby Lashley versus the jobbers, like Sami Zayn. He just goes out there and squashes him. I mean, give me matches like this and I'll get behind the Hurt Business more.
Like, I really liked it. And it was obviously a really hard hitting match because Kofi got his molar broke.
Right.
And was spitting out pieces of his teeth during the match and after the show.
Right.
Which he called out when Alexander did that handspring spinning kick, I think it was.
Yeah.
Because I think he hit Kofi with it.
Right. And then Alexander, I think it was Alexander that had his wrists were taped up. And on one of his wrists that he had 4 SG.
Other one. Shelton.
Benjamin? Okay,
that was Shelton. Yeah, Shelton had it.
He had 4 SG on there for Shad Gaspar. And he even posted a tweet about it afterwards, like, this one's for you.
They actually, that was something that I meant to tell you on Raw last night. They actually did an exclusive sit-down interview with Shelton Benjamin about it.
Yeah.
And like they did a whole thing where Shelton kind of explained why it was there and the purpose of it. And they literally asked him, they were like, if Shad was here right now, what would you say to him? Or, what do you think he would say? Yeah. And he looked and he laughed. He said, oh, if Shad was here right now, he would most definitely look at me and be like, son, this is a young man's game and everything. He says, so, why don't you just go ahead and hand that to me and I'll take care of it. he would be saying something to make me laugh, something funny and witty.
If Shad was still if he was still around in the WWE, he would actually probably be in the Hurt.
He most definitely would. But like the big thing that kind of kicked it off is they asked Shelton. They're right there. The very last question is, what if you could, in your own words, how would you explain or describe Shad's legacy? And he goes, only thing that I can even stop, like when I think of Shad now, is I think of a hero. And he was like, he said a hero and a dad. He said because he gave up his life to save a child, not just a child, but his own child. And he was like, I told myself if the next title that I won, I would dedicate to Shad. He said, especially if it was a tag team title. He said, I've never dedicated a championship to anyone. And so it was really nice to kind of see that showcased on Raw.
Now, one thing that I did notice, I don't know if they're going to touch on this or anything, was like the little conflict at the end of the match. When you've got Woods outside the ring laid out, Kofi's laid out in the ring, and Shelton Benjamin is getting ready to pull his finisher to close the match out, and then Cedric Alexander jumps over the rope and tags himself in, and then lands the lumbar check on Kofi for the pin to win the titles. And the camera kind of panned over to Shelton, and Shelton was just like, fuck did you just do? Like, why the hell did you do that?
Yeah.
What's the point behind that? And like MVP was just like, okay, I don't know what to say to that. So I'm hoping
Yeah,
they touch base on
MVP
that.
MVP was on the outside, like, okay, well, let's just see how this goes.
Right. I mean, like, you guys won, so I mean, it doesn't matter who finished it. Somebody won, but I mean, it was a shit move to do to your own teammate and whatnot. Especially when not too long ago you were just laid out outside the ring, and now you're jumping in, hitting the lumbar check, and claiming the titles.
And
then,
see what I like about it is I really like the whole. I like the whole story that was somewhat told there of Alexander wanting to show that he can finish a job.
right.
Or he won't quit until it's done, or this, that, and the other. But tagging yourself in to take the finish.
I guess that was kind of his way of trying to prove after that shitty start that he had.
Yeah.
Jump in, you started the match out shitty and everything, so now you're trying to jump in and prove that you can do it. I don't know.
Oh yeah, that was entirely the reason for that.
Whatever it was, they got the job. And then, of course, at the very end, after they were announced as the champions, Bobby Lashley comes up on the ring, on the stage to celebrate with him. So, good back and forth on that one. A lot of trash talking on both sides. MVP, doing the sells and everything when stuff gets low, and knowing his commentary. I gave this one full marks, 10
Yeah, I gave it a 10 out of 10.
Next match, I don't quite understand what the point behind this one was, except to announce the return of this particular individual. But the next match on the card was for the Women's Tag Team Championship, and it was Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler defending against Asuka, and it was supposed to be, I'm guessing it was supposed to be Lana, but they ended up injuring her. So she was laid out, and it would be Asuka and a mystery partner. And leading up to it, they had like a lot of the female superstars, coming up to her and trying to prove that they're worthy of being her teammate. And, she turned all of them down. At one point, she finally said, I have a partner. I'll announce, she'll be announced whenever the match starts. So Jax and Baszler come out. They're in the ring, and then Asuka comes out. And then while she's standing in the ring, everybody's trying to figure out who her mystery partner is. And then the Queen's music. The return of Charlotte Fleck. I gotta say, the new look from Charlotte. She's got a meanness to her now. Like the whole entire time, the whole entire match, the time that she was out there, it was like resting bitch face the whole time.
Yes. Like, that's what I was going to say. They had it was a really good dynamic with Asuka and Charlotte. But you also had that history there. Charlotte was the one that ended Asuka's streak.
Right.
Charlotte was the first person to pin Asuka. So there was that back and forth with them.
Right. And the fact that Asuka chose her as her partner shows the respect that Asuka has for what Charlotte's done in the past. Instead of holding a grudge and saying, no, I don't want her, she actually stepped up and it's like, you know what? The two people, the two girls across the ring from me are bigger than me, they're tougher than me, they're stronger than me. I'm going to need somebody that I can trust, somebody that I know that's as tough as me because she's beat me before. I'm going to call Charlotte.
Yeah.
And like I said, I mean, Charlotte came back, new look. You can tell she's had some work done on her, cosmetic wise, but it's just the intensity that she put out there. She never ran from anybody. She never backed down. You know, when she got in the ring with Nia, she went toe to toe with Nia and didn't hesitate at all. The same thing with Shayna. I mean, she's back to prove why she's the queen and why she's won so many championships.
And it also marked she being one of the very few to hold every women's title in the WWE. That includes NXT. I think, in fact, the only other person or the only other people to do it is Sasha, Bayley, and Asuka.
And like at one point, like you could tell, like Nia and Shayna are outside the ring when Sasha's in the ring, and they're both conversing back and forth, trying to figure out what do we need to do, because this woman's just not stopping.
Yeah. So, and that's one of those. The only title that Charlotte has over the others is she also held the Divas Championship.
She's held the NXT Women. She was the Divas Champion. She was the Women's Champion. The Women's Championship after they changed it when they decided to drop them from the Divas to the Women of WWE.
Yeah. Like she's held all the
gold.
Yeah.
In the women's division. So, yeah, I mean, I believe it ended with Flair hitting the natural selection.
Mm-hmm. To Baszler.
To Baszler. Getting the pinfall, which basically stripped the titles from Nia and Shayna and putting them on Asuka. I'm curious to see how they're going to proceed with this one. Because I think now that Flair is back, it's only a matter of time before she starts going for the championship.
I really don't think she goes for the women's title.
What brand is she going to be on? Raw?
No, don't know yet.
Because this one's just kind of up in the air. Because I know the women's championship is defended. There's only one tag team championship for the women. It's defended
on both.
Whatever brand, so whatever brand the woman happens. I don't know. I'm curious to see where they go with Charlotte from now. I would not be surprised if they put the women's championship back again.
See, I'd almost think that they put her on SmackDown. That way you've got Asuka and Charlotte on separate brands, and each of them being the tag title holder. I think you do it that way, and then now you're able to actually defend your women's titles on each brand the way that, or on both brands the way that it's supposed to be.
Right.
But I also think you're going to run into an issue with Asuka defending the tag team champions and the Raw title.
Right. Yeah, because that's right. Because is Asuka the women's champion?
On Raw.
On Raw, and Sasha's on SmackDown.
Mm.
I don't think they'd have Charlotte going up against Asuka for the. I think they put her on SmackDown, put her up against Sasha Banks. That'd be a good feud right there. That'd be a Mania feud.
Like, so Asuka got the title for Money in the Bank because that's when it was revealed the night after Money in the Bank that the women's Money in the Bank contest, it wasn't a contract.
It would be for the championship.
That the championship was in the briefcase because that's when it was revealed that Becky Lynch was pregnant.
Right.
And as far as I can recall, Asuka's had it a majority of that time, except for that brief period where Bayley or Sasha, whichever one of them, had it. And like you had, I think it was Sasha that had it because Sasha had the Raw women's title and was half of the tag team women's division, to champs, and then Bailey had SmackDown and the other half of the women's tag team champions.
I would not be surprised if they put, like you said, put Charlotte on SmackDown, and then at the Rumble she takes on Banks for the title and wins the title, because then you've got the tag team title being held by two different women on two different brands who are both the world champion for that respective brand.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting to see.
Like, I think they could pull that one.
Yeah, they could pull that one off. Easy.
I gave this one an 8 out of 10.
I gave it a 9.
Is what I gave it.
Simply because the return of Charlotte and the intensity that she shows that she's got now.
I gave it an 8 because there was one side you had Asuka and Charlotte, which for Charlotte to not have been in the ring since the last time, I guess in the summer, or I think SummerSlam, maybe. For her to not be in the ring for so long and to come back and there was no ring rust. Like, you couldn't see any ring rust. It wasn't noticeable. But on the other side of things, you had Nia Jax, who's been in there and doing this, and she's still slipping up spots and missing stuff, and it kind of pulled me away from the match, and I guess is how you would really say it. It was the mistakes just kind of took away from the match. That was, and again, it wasn't a whole lot of mistakes. Don't get me wrong saying that. I'm not sitting here saying that she can't wrestle or anything like that, because that's not true. It was just there were slips, and it was noticeable slips. So, and for me, it kind of took away from it a little bit.
But it was nice to see the good guys taking down the Bulls. Considering for like the last month or two, it's been Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler bullying the hell out of Lana. Even though WWE has an anti-bullying stance, but yet they've got bullying. So, fix your shit, WWE.
Now, I will say, the Monday before the pay-per-view was when Lana got the pinfall on Nia, 1-on-1, and then after the match, Nia and Shayna attacked her, but yeah. That whole Lana thing is something that I won't even get on the soapbox about. I don't agree with it.
Right. I mean,
you don't punish you don't punish someone for something that their significant other said.
Right. They're only doing it to her.
That was their opinion.
Yeah, and then she'll have her 30 days where she can't compete anywhere else, and then she'll make her debut, and it'll be a complete turnaround for her character.
Yeah,
she'll have more freedom, more creative control over her.
Yeah. But that leads us to, is it Reigns and Owens next?
The next TLC match for the Universal Championship. Roman Reigns, head of the table, versus Kevin Owens. Good build with everything that's going on, with Kevin Owens coming out, showing in the previous weeks that he's not afraid of Reigns. Saying that, Reigns, the only reason you're where you are now is because of you've always had help from your family, and saying, I don't need my family's help to be the best and everything. And he was just constantly out of jail. And every Raw, there was always a match between Jey Uso, Kevin Owens, because that's what Roman did. Roman sent Jey out there to take care of his dirty work and everything, but Jey kept failing. So it culminated in a TLC match, between the two, the championship.
I'm not going to lie. This was... So, the tag team match, this match, and parts of the Inferno match was my favorite things from the night. This match is probably going to be my match of the night because of the story and just how well everyone involved in the match, from Paul Heyman, Jey Uso, Roman Reigns, Kevin Owens, and even the ref and the announcers were like, everyone was part of this story.
They're like very hard hitting between on both sides and everything. Of course, you expect lots of interference from Jey Uso because it's the way it is when you've got a stable and you're in a TLC no disqualification match. There's going to be interference on both sides. So the best part that I liked was when Reigns come charging at Owens to try and land a spear on him, and Owens stepped out of the way and he just implodes the fuck right by the timekeeper's table. And you just see the timekeeper just like crunch up in a fetal position on his chair to try and not get hit by the.
Oh yeah, he was fetal position in that rolling chair.
It's like, I believe it got to one point where like Owens was like Reigns was catching his breath at the ring or something, and Owens was like fighting Jay over by the announcer's table. And then like he went for a pop-up powerbomb and Jay countered it. And you were like, oh, he's going to hit that powerbomb. And sure enough, like he grabbed him, pulled him, and hit him with that pop-up powerbomb and threw him into the table. Destroyed the announcer's table.
He hit the powerbomb. He hit the pop-up powerbomb on Jay through the announcer's table. Right. And then buried Jay under the announcer's table debris. And then the ring, inside the ring, he hit another pop-up powerbomb on Roman.
Through a table.
Through the table.
I remember at one point, like, after he nailed the pop-up powerbomb to Jay outside the ring. The
spear.
Reigns ended up coming out on top, knocking Owens down or something. Then I remember Reigns going over and pulling the debris off of Uso so that he could get back up in case he needed it.
Yeah, he goes and removes the debris, and you hear him say, I want to say he said, "Get your ass up" or something.
Yeah.
But like there was that moment of shit talk between Roman and Jay.
Right. And like what I liked about the build.
Or no, he didn't say "get your ass up." He yelled, "There, now you're good," and they went back in the ring, and it was just like, well, damn.
One of the parts that I liked about this particular feud was like the build up. With like at one point Roman offering a spot in the faction for Kevin Owens, but all Owens had to do was say that I'm the head of the table. Submit. Yeah, and Owens was like, I'm not submitting to you.
Yeah.
Like this feud is far from over. Between these two.
It's that whole thing of it is because they've got the cage match on Christmas Day.
Right. This Friday, cage match between Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns. And it's funny because they're leading up to this, like the best way to keep out interference is put them in a cage. No. You're putting them in a normal cage. It has no roof. Uso's going to find a way to fucking get in, and Uso's going to be outside the ring to run interference to keep Owens from getting out. There's no way.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Is put these two in a fucking hell in a cell, and there you go.
That's what I was going to say. It is a funny stipulation, but I think that it's not going to be Jay getting in the ring. It's going to be Jay outside the ring, keeping Kevin from escaping. Yeah.
He's going to run interference from outside. Anytime Owens tries to escape, he's going to be there to keep.
All in all, this was a really good match. The spear through the table in the corner, was beautiful. The way the table broke was hilarious. The way Owens sold it was hilarious.
Owens just sitting there with the table just sitting on folded over on top of him for like a good 2 minutes.
Like it was That was a great move. Owens with his stunners out of nowhere were really good.
Like when he was climbing up to the top and Jay come in after, selling a broken ankle or an injured ankle, coming in, hopping in, grabbing Owens and pulling him down, and Owens just drops down and kicks him in the midsection and stuns him.
Yeah, like there's that spot early in the match where Owens does the frog splash off the apron and just literally just flat lands.
Does it land on his knee? Just completely goes flat and lands on top of him.
Like, yeah, he doesn't absorb any of that. He lets Roman take all of it. Like, it was a very hard hitting, very good match. There was a spot where Reigns took a hard hit and landed in the shoulder.
Yeah.
And he sold that shoulder the rest of the match.
Right.
Like to the point where some people were afraid that he was injured, and then just come to find out, no, he was doing his job and he was doing it really good.
Right. Which is something you don't really see him do in the past either. You really saw him
in all honesty, this match, Reigns did a very good job of making Kevin Owens look strong.
Right.
And making Kevin Owens look like Kevin Owens is a contender or a possible person that can end this reign.
Right.
Which Roman needs, and that is what Roman's job is as the bad guy, is to make his opponents believable.
Right.
Not saying Kevin, and I'm not saying Kevin Owens is not believable, because Kevin Owens is. In fact, I for some reason along my YouTube watching today, it was Ring of Honor had popped in. Well, I mean, I just was kind of watching tidbits here and there of stuff, and then there was something that popped up in the recommended on the side, and it was Ring of Honor top 3 Kevin Steen matches in Ring of Honor. And the first one was Kevin Steen and Davey Richards, and it's where Kevin Steen wins the ROH World Title. The second match on it, which was a majority of the hour and some odd, hour and a half video this was Kevin Steen against El Generico, who is Sami Zayn, in a ladder wars match for the ROH title. And like watching that match and the stuff that they do to each other in that match, like there's a package pile driver in across a ladder skywalk, essentially. Like they bridge a ladder between 2 other ladders. He picks up Sami Zayn and delivers the package pile driver through the ladder, and under that ladder was another ladder that was bridged between the 2 ladders. So like the first ladder completely gives way and the second ladder bends, and Zayn just bounces off, and Owens is sitting in this like warped ladder chair. Like Kevin Owens is a very tough individual and very strong individual. So I mean, it is believable, but Reigns really sold that, this man is someone who could end my reign.
Which is good. I mean, it's been a while since Reigns has had a decent feud with somebody other.
Yeah.
And he was actually able to sell it. I mean, Roman has come a long way now that, he's under Paul Heyman's watch.
Like, in my opinion, this is the Roman we should have got when the Shield broke.
Right.
Like, this is the Roman we should have got when Seth Rollins turned. Boom. Chair to the back of Reigns. Ambrose is shocked and confused on what's going on. Ambrose and Rollins end up feuding. Reigns should have been like, you know what, I was the one who got hit with the chair.
Right.
I'm going to start just like wailing people left and right, and I don't care who they are.
Right. We'll start
Like this, yeah, this is the Roman Reigns we should have got when the Shield split.
Right. This is the Roman Reigns we deserve, but all in all, the end of the match ended up with Roman Reigns with a slow climb up to the top. Well, the best part was like the numerous times that Owens was on top of the ladder and was like,
Owen had it.
He actually had the belt, but Jey Uso came in and stopped it.
Yeah, when he had both hands on that title, and like literally, I had that title.
Right. Wasn't this a match where I think it was Uso that brought like a smaller ladder up to it?
No, Reigns grabbed a small little 5-foot ladder.
Like, that shit ain't gonna do, bro. That ain't gonna do.
Like, Owen slid the big ladder in, and then they're fighting outside, and Reigns throws Owen in the ring, and then he grabs another ladder from under the ring. The ladder's 5 feet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is the smallest ladder you could have grabbed besides a step ladder.
Right.
But I mean, it was hilarious. But he grabbed that ladder because he could legitimately throw that ladder around however he wanted to. Exactly. I mean, it made sense, but it was funny to see, like, just the aesthetic. You've got Roman Reigns 6'2", 100 or 280. With a 5-foot ladder. Like the man is taller than the ladder when the ladder is closed.
Right. Just comedy.
He's just like, yeah. It was a funny spot in the match. That was, it was a needed spot in the match, not for the comedic value, but it was Reigns was grabbing something he knew he could put all of his force into.
Exactly.
Like, it made sense, but the visual was hilarious.
The match culminates at the end with Reigns climbing a normal ladder, not the little 5-footer. He climbed a normal ladder, got up there, very slow, very methodical, proving, selling his point that he's the head of the table.
In all honesty, this is by far the best title take in a ladder match I've seen in a long, long time, and it was because he takes his time climbing that ladder, and when he gets to that title, he just slowly grabs the strap and slowly pulls it apart.
Proven that he is the head of the table, and that he 100, it wasn't rushed to get up there before his opponent could get up, that he literally laid his opponent out to the point that they could no longer stop him from reclaiming his title, or to stop him from getting his belt. Top. Good match. I gave it a 10 of 10.
Yeah, I gave this one a 10.
Friday, I cannot wait. I think I'm gonna DVR SmackDown because I want to see where this feud takes us and everything. I'm curious to see where they're gonna take this whole Roman Reigns, Kevin Owens thing. Like, are they gonna find a way to somehow get Owens in the family, or is this gonna go? There's gonna be a feud that's gonna probably go through not Mania but Rumble.
I honestly think it may go to Mania.
It'd be nice to see, but I mean, it's gonna be hard to.
The reason I think it goes to Mania because I don't see them having fans at Mania again this year, and if they don't have fans, we're not getting Reigns Rock without the stadium being.
Right, because Rock's not going to do it unless there's people.
I'm not even going to say it's the Rock's not going to do it because people can't be there. It's going to be Vince that won't do it because fans. I'm pretty sure the Rock would do it.
Yeah, because I mean, you pointed it out. I mean, you look at AEW, they have fans. You look at TNA, they have fans. It's limited capacity, but they have fans. NXT has fans.
TNA's running a completely emptier building. Yeah, because they're doing the tapings. They do them in Nashville.
I mean, it's Vince. Vince is an all or nothing guy. So he either wants a full stadium or he wants nobody there at all. So.
Like it amazed me when they were still going to run the Raymond James Stadium.
Right.
With everything going on, but it was going to be at limited capacity.
Right.
And then it was like, no, we can't do it at all. And then it was... It was one of those moments where it was, you know what, we're going to move everything to the PC. Okay, I don't like doing this stuff here in the PC. We're going to do residency in this arena. We're going to make the Thunderdome. Don't get me wrong, I like the Thunderdome. I like the concept of the Thunderdome. Is it the best way to do it? Yeah, in all honesty, it is. Even like the limited capacity thing is still kind of risky with the virus and everything. This is 100% surefire way to keep everyone and your fans safe. I agree with it, yes. I don't like in the piped-in crowd noise. I understand why they're doing the piped-in crowd noise.
You know the real reason why they're doing it? Because it was obvious that you could hear when they were calling what they were doing.
Oh yeah. No, I'm aware of that, and that's like that's what I'm saying. I understand why they're doing it. I don't like it.
Right.
Because to me, that was one of my favorite things.
Right. Yeah,
I could hear them talking.
I mean, it's like you go back like when this whole thing first started, when they didn't allow fans in the stadium and everything at one of the UFC title matches, at one of the UFC pay-per-views, the guy in the ring, like the opponent in the ring, was listening to the announcers because you could hear the announcers everywhere in that damn arena. But he was listening to what the announcer was saying was going on and everything, and he knew exactly what to do to counter his opponent, and he ended up winning the match because the announcer gave him enough information to go off of that he could block and counter the moves that the guy was about to do and land his own attacks. So yeah, I get it. The piped-in noise is annoying as hell. I want to hear the guys going back and forth. I want to hear the trash talking. I want to hear them when they call their spots and stuff like that. But what can you do? It's the age of COVID.
Yeah.
You know,
and
the
like
show they
so
choose to give us, so
yeah, so for me, like I thoroughly enjoy hearing forth in the room. Like I could care less if someone's being cheered or being booed. I want to hear the two guys talking back and forth. Because yeah, okay, they may call spots here and there, but for the most part, a lot of times it's just trash talk back and forth.
Selling the storyline.
What's the harm in us hearing that? Because that's going to sell your story that you're building.
Right.
As to where, okay, now if I hear someone say, you know, reversal Claymore.
Right.
You know, and then I see them throw them into the ropes, and it's a drop down, and then it's a reversal to like a, you know, they reverse a clothesline, and then boom, there's the Claymore. Okay, well, that kind of gave away the finish. It kind of took me out of it. I understand that. But if I hear them, you know, it depends on the circle. If you cannot hear them when they're calling the go home finish, I think you're fine.
Right.
If you hear them, you know, drop down, leapfrog, drop kick, I don't see anything wrong with hearing. All right, cool. They're just kind of saying, "Hey, I'm fixing to shoot you into the ropes. I'm gonna drop down. Then I'm gonna give you a leapfrog, and then I'm gonna throw the drop kick." I don't see anything wrong with that. It's a basic sequence. Most people that have been watching wrestling any length of time know that sequence.
Right.
It's a staple in just about any wrestling match.
And it usually leads up to the final, the go home, basically. Like, I'm dying to get to the next match.
Yes. So, my call on this one was 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10 as well. Hard hitting. You know, there was a lot of interference from Uso. My highlight was...
I'm looking forward to seeing where the story goes.
Right. My highlight was Reigns imploding the timekeepers with that spear. And then the two pop-up powerbombs through the announcer table and the table.
Mine was the pop-up powerbomb announcer's table, the El Toro spear move out of the way from the charging bull.
Right.
Ring keeper's area explodes, and then the spear in the corner. I absolutely love the spear in the corner. Just the visual of it and the way
the selling,
the
table broke.
The way had the table not broke like that and set the way that it did,
right.
I don't think that move. That wouldn't have been one of my. This was one of my highlights of the match.
Right.
But the fact that table was just perfectly. It just looked like it shaped around Kevin Owens and was just there.
Right.
And Owens was just in the perfect seated position in the corner, like.
Right.
Well, he told me to sit. I'm sitting. Okay.
Alright, so now we move on to the finale, the 6th and final match of the night. The WWE TLC Home Improvement. I told you I was going to find a way to incorporate this into the podcast, and I did.
Look, it's fine. That's why I sent you the image. I figured you'd get a kick out of it.
I was laughing my ass off. It's up now. It'll pop up. They put Randy Orton in Tim Allen's place, and then they took Earl Hindman's place and put the feet. It's just fucking hilarious, man. I laughed for a good 5 minutes straight when I saw that. I couldn't help myself. It was awesome, man. Moving on, the flames at the bottom of the overlay that we got leads up to the Firefly Inferno match between The Fiend, Randy Orton, stemming all the way back. This feud stems all the way back to the Randy Orton, Bray Wyatt Fiend, or Bray Wyatt feud that they had back when Orton was part of the Wyatt family when he betrayed Bray Wyatt and torched the house where Sister Abigail was supposedly buried.
Yeah, where Orton lays Sister Abigail to rest.
Right. Lights are on fire and everything. And then, Bray Wyatt insisted this match mainly because of the whole basis around that. It's like, you set fire there, now I'm going to set fire to you. We're going to have an Inferno match. Now, what got me is, Orton came out first. He came out in track pants. It looked like track pants. It might have been sweatpants. I don't know. And a hoodie. Which is different. It lets you know something's up. You can't have an Inferno match if you're coming out there in just trunks. Because you gotta be set on fire. And then at that point, you have to have some kind of accelerant if you're not wearing clothes. So, but what really got me was when Orton got into the ring, you didn't see.
It looks like he was just wearing regular pants.
Yeah, you couldn't see like the normal way an Inferno match was done. Is they had the braziers that were going around all four sides of the ring, and then once both competitors are in the ring, they light the brazier, and you can see the fire. And then every time there was a big bump or something, the fire would shoot up and whatnot. They didn't have that. And at that point, you knew the match was pre-recorded because if you're watching the rest of the pay-per-view, you didn't see what comes up afterwards. And then The Fiend comes out, does his entrance, and then we have the match. And what I find funny about this is you actually didn't see the fire until like 10 minutes into the match. It was like 5-10 minutes into the match when The Fiend lays out Randy Orton. What? You
should have an image of it in Discord.
Oh, I've already got the image.
Oh, okay.
I've got it. I'm about to making sure that. And then The Fiend turns around and lays out Randy Orton, and then just kind of throws his hands up. And then when he throws his hands up, that's when everything just fucking erupts.
Yeah, there's that moment where I think Reigns. I think the Wyatt had hit that Sambo suplex or Saito suplex, whatever.
Yeah.
He essentially hit that STO. The Uranagi. That's what it was.
Right.
It was that Uranagi suplex slam move that he does. And then he turns to the hard cam, and the camera pans out, and you see him hold his arms out, and just yell, and when he does, those flames just shoot up. Like everything engulfs.
Right. And right now on the stream, when it loads for everybody, there's two images. There's the close-up view of where Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, holding his arms up, and you see the fire kind of. And then the next one is like a different angle zoomed out, the one on top, of him doing the same thing, but you can see more of the fire. It actually makes him look like he's fucking in an inferno.
Yeah. Like, that was... I will say this until I'm blue in the face. I popped like a kid in a candy store when he did that and those flames went off.
Right. And
like that, in my opinion, that was one of the best intros for a fire into that match that you could have hit.
Right. Now, at this point, you could tell it was pre-recorded because of where everything was placed. And then all the other matches that you had throughout the night that were live, you didn't see any of this. The fire, any of the braziers or anything, the jets that they were using to have the fire in there.
Well, and not just that, but you also didn't have any of the stuff like for the announcer's table or the monitors or anything.
Right.
It's before all of the wires and cables and stuff for that had been ran.
Right. And what really got me is I want to know how did they have just like a select few people, or did like on the monitors behind that was going on that you see, or did they just take something that was like pre-recorded from the show and then kind of superimpose it on the monitors digitally? Or
you talking about the fans?
Yeah. How did they?
It was a pre-recorded loop because there's one image where you see Randy standing in the near the entryway after the match is over, and he's holding his hands up with all the flames.
Yeah.
But the very first row that has faces, and then it's like not the row behind it, but the next row is the exact same. The faces are all exactly in the same spot.
Okay, so basically they just took pre-recorded from previous pay-per-views and put them up.
Yeah.
To give it the illusion that it was.
Yeah.
Figured it'd be something weird, something like that. But I mean, it was. I don't know, man. This match, the fact that it was pre-recorded didn't bother me because it was a good match. You can't have something like this live. And what I was saying is, with this match, it couldn't lead the pay-per-view. You couldn't have this match lead, especially with the way it ended. You couldn't lead with this because, you got to set somebody on fire. There's going to be burn marks. And I'm trying to describe this without giving away too much, but...
So, here's the thing. It was a pre-recorded match. It was recorded earlier that day before the pay-per-view. But, so it was more supposed to be more of a cinematic type match, but it wasn't.
Yeah, like the Boneyard match was.
Yeah, but the issue with it was, like, the moment when Wyatt gets the chair, the rocking chair. And does everything with it. So
pours a little bit of gasoline on it and everything, and then
yeah, he pours the accelerant on and makes the trail with the accelerant down the concrete. And then when it cuts, you can tell that there's a cut because now the rocking chair has that red propellant kind of smeared on it to kind of make sure that it does catch fire in certain places.
Right.
And then Orton's sitting in the chair. The chair doesn't have the accelerant on it.
And then
the Fiend lights it. The Fiend lights it, and Orton's getting out of it, and the chair now does have this accelerant on it. And then it goes up, and where that accelerant gel is smeared, you've got the flames are grabbing a hold of it and just kind of staying to that. Now I did like when the Fiend walked by the rocking chair, he just slightly tapped it to make it start rocking. I've said this numerous times, and anytime we've had a review match, I'm a very big Bray Wyatt fan. This man is a genius. I mean, call it what you want to. The man is a genius. To have as much thought as he has had building the Fiend, because openly the Fiend was brought into existence when Bray Wyatt was doing the Wyatt family, and it's been a good 7 years that the Fiend was first talked about, and no one caught it.
Right.
And then 7 years later, boom, we've got the Fiend, and it's exactly what was described years earlier from the man who was portraying the character. He has a way of taking his character, keeping his character relevant, evolving the character, incorporating things in with the character. Sister Abigail, Alexa Bliss, the puppets, Mercy the Buzzer, which is based off Waylon Mercy, which was the original idea where the Wyatt family, Bray Wyatt, came from. Huskus the Pig Boy, aka pulled from Husky Harris. Rambling Rabbit is supposedly one of the creative writers, or potentially a poke at Bo Dallas in Bo's character, the Believe. Abby the Witch, Sister Abigail, Friendship Frog, Alexa Bliss, the friendship with Nikki Cross, and then the Firefly, the Funhouse. He openly stated the first appearance that he built it for Bray as Bray's safe place. And then with everything that's happened, it was revealed on Raw after TLC that the Fiend had built Alexa's playground for her. So it's one of those things where this character is such a monster, but it's at the same time it's not a monster.
And
it's like a guardian.
And you touched on that, the red accelerant that you could see on the rocking chair, but you also see it a couple of times later. One notable one is when Bray Wyatt has the axe handle.
That axe handle.
He's beating the crap out of Orton with it. And then,
you also see it on that leather strap.
Right.
That
right. Yeah, early. He has one leather strap and he's beating the crap out of Orton with it. And then he throws it away and he goes back and he pulls the other one out from another ring that has an accelerant on it. And sets it in one of the braziers and lights it on fire and tries to hit Orton with it. And then later on, the same thing happened. He's got, or maybe it was Orton that had the axe handle. Was beating.
Yeah, Orton grabs the axe handle
and then he
uses it.
Right, and then the next scene, there's a cut, and on the next one, he's got an axe handle, but it's got the accelerant on it, so he sticks it in the brazier and sets it on fire and tries to hit Wyatt with it as well. So they like to use that red accelerant.
Did Orton swing the axe handle, or was it Bray that swung the axe handle at Orton while it was on fire?
I think it was Orton that did it.
I don't know. I know one of my favorite lines from commentary came in that moment. Samoa Joe is an amazing man on commentary, because he goes, most axes are made for cutting, but this one apparently is made for cauterizing. And I'm just like...
Didn't Bray pull out a pickaxe?
Yeah, he pulls out the pickaxe before
He tries to hit Orton. Orton ducks out of the way, and the pickaxe goes over and gets stuck on the backside of the barricade. And you can see the Fiend trying to get that damn pickaxe out. Like it wasn't supposed to get stuck.
You can hear Samoa Joe go, "Oh my God, why's he got a pickaxe? He's gonna kill Randy." And I mean, Bray Wyatt swung for the fences. I give him credit, and he didn't pull back on the swing.
Right. We get to the around the ending of the match, and Orton goes for, he tries to land an RKO outside, but the Fiend counters with the mandible claw and tries to push Orton into the fire while he's got the claw locked in. Orton's
Orton
smart
were,
enough
or
to counter it and flips it around and ends up pushing the Fiend into the fire, lighting him on fire.
so here's my only, and this is the only takeaway. Well, one of the few takeaways. I won't say the only. One takeaway was the cuts were super noticeable this time around, which is the first time that it's been noticeable for any cuts in pre-recorded matches. 2 is when the Fiend gets set on fire. He's nowhere near the flames.
Right.
And the flames just magically woof up his back.
Right.
And I'm just like,
I don't know if you noticed it, but you can see like when that
honestly,
scene hit, his jacket had the accelerator.
It was like a bad camera angle. Yeah, but it was also like it was a bad camera angle.
Right.
Like they could have got a better camera angle to make it look like he was actually closer to those.
Right.
To the barriers.
Exactly. And like what was funny about it is after he lit him on fire, the Fiend just stood there staring Randy Orton down. And Orton ran into the ring, and then you could see the Fiend. He slides into the ring after Orton, and
still on fire.
When he slides in the first time, he's on fire. But then when the camera switches over, as soon as he gets in the ring, he's no longer on fire.
Yeah.
And what was really funny about the whole thing was after he was set on fire, there was no bell rung to indicate the match was over. And they already, like the announcers even said, the match is over. He's like, they're like, what's going on? Like, Orton set the Fiend on fire. Randy won. And then that's when you see Orton land the RKO on the Fiend in the ring. And then sits there and just looks at him and watches him. And then kind of walks over and kicks him a little bit. And the Fiend doesn't move. He's just laid out, crucifix style, laid on the mat. And then Orton decides at this point he's going to put an end to everything. Gets out of the ring and grabs the same gas can that the Fiend had. And the funny part about this whole thing is he took it and just kind of sniffed it and just made a funny face like, dude, what the hell were you expecting? Water? Gets in the ring, walks over to the Fiend who's laying on the mat and just pours the gasoline all over him. And this is the part that cracked me up. Is he grabs the book of matches and he lights the match, and it was a bad camera spot because you can clearly see the dummy.
So the first shot where he pours the gas on Wyatt, it was Wyatt laying there, and then there's a camera shot. There's a cutaway, and then when it comes back to where he's well, I mean, essentially it would have probably been
water,
kerosene.
Yeah.
Because they generally use kerosene.
Yeah.
Because A, it dries rather quickly. B, it's not going to hurt the superstars to come in contact with kerosene as it does petroleum. But it is Bray that's there getting doused in this liquid. And then the cutaway, Orton getting the matches and coming back and getting ready to light this thing on fire. You can clearly tell it's no longer Bray's laying there. It's a dummy that's supposed to be proportioned to Bray.
Right. Looks completely off.
And there's no screams. There's no, it's silence as this dummy burns.
Right.
And I'm like, if you took the time to do a pre-recording for this match, that means you have Bray there in the building.
Right.
While you're doing this. And while this is airing, have Bray mic'd up and have him make noises and screams.
Exactly.
You just covered. All right, well, okay, obviously it's a dummy, but at least we have the noises of a man's being burned.
Right. Exactly. And then the cutout when the pay-per-view goes off is Orton standing up on the ramp doing his patented pose that he does with the flames dancing all around.
Now, I will say this. There was a tweet sent out after, almost immediately after the Inferno match from Bray Wyatt that said thank you with a red circle and showed a picture of a cocoon.
which basically leads you to believe that the Fiend is going into hibernation right now and evolving into something more terrifying as Alexa Bliss led on. Now, there's a lot of talk, a lot of speculation right now that, you know, if you watch, you know,
wait.
Bliss.
Before we get there, yesterday, or well, technically late last night, early this morning, there was another tweet that was sent out that was Randy Orton, and it goes, "Listen, I know it's late. I know I burned a man alive a couple days ago, and I shouldn't be trusted. But whatever you do, don't sleep on hashtag Mandalorian. Just started season 1, and I think I'm in love. Hashtag Baby Yoda."
The man just burned somebody alive, and now he's tweeting about Mandalorian.
Like, I'm loving it. Randy Orton is one of those people that if you have not followed on Twitter, just follow on Twitter. You get some interesting stuff from it.
Right.
But then you take how the show ended. You've got the Fiend burning alive, and then you fast forward to Raw. Orton's cutting his promos talking about how for the first time the voices in his head had stopped talking, and all he could hear was the gasps and the screams of the Fiend. Which, first of all, I kind of already pointed out there was absolutely no sound coming from this dummy.
Right.
So where is he hearing these gasps and screams come from? Because there was none in the arena. And then, the lights start shutting out. Like it's the Fiend. Just like the Fiend.
He gets the fuck out of the ring because that's usually what happens.
He gets out of the ring, the lights come on, and they're purplish. And Alexa's in the ring in the playground.
Her fucking
full-blown swing set. A little, Fisher-Price
slide.
Like there's a rocking horse.
Right.
Which is very reminiscent of when the Firefly Funhouse was being teased. Because there was one that was like a stuffed rabbit sitting on the back of a rocking horse, and the rocking horse was rocking. Now here's a rocking horse in the place, or in the playground, and it's, Alexa has the white eyes. Alexa's talking to Orton, but is also talking to someone.
Talking to an imaginary figure in the swing next to her. I think what would have made that spot even better is if the swing was actually swinging too. If they had found rigged some guide wires up to it to where when they did that, the swing would also swing back and forth.
I completely forgot that I have an Amazon device.
And your device decided to set her name. Yeah, that's why I don't say my name, because I got one right behind me, and every time I say Bliss's first name, she lights up.
Yeah. Anyway, so Bliss has the white eyes. Bliss talks to Randy, and then there's several times where she's talking to the swing next to her.
Right. Let me interrupt you real quick. Did you notice something different about the white eyes?
Yeah, there was no color in them.
Yeah, I mean there was no red ring around them. Like
that's
been when she was with Bray Wyatt.
That's what I'm saying. There was no color in them. It was just
I think what they're doing is we're going to see Bray Wyatt coming up within the next probably at the beginning of the year, and I honestly think that we might see like a different trend with the Fiend. Instead of being Bray Wyatt, it may be incorporated like the Alexa Bliss version of the Fiend before we actually get the Fiend back. We may not see the Fiend again until closer to Mania.
I don't think the Fiend returns until earliest will be Rumble, latest will be Mania.
Yeah, I think Rumble would be too long. I mean, too short. I think it would be closer to Mania.
Now, when I say Fiend return, I don't mean like Wyatt Fiend there. I think we get a tease or we get a female Fiend.
Yeah, we'll get the Alexa Bliss Fiend.
But I think
We'll get the Bliss Fiend.
I think one or the other appears Rumble. We either get a tease that the Fiend is not gone, or we get the female Fiend.
Well, we got the tease last night because Bliss said, he's
home.
He's home. He's hibernating, and when he returns, he's going to be something.
He's going to be
what you can imagine. He'll be back. They're just building the storyline, and I hope to God they do the storyline right. And I hope to God, it's going to incorporate Randy Orton, and I would not be surprised if, as they keep this storyline up between Bliss and Orton. Orton keeps saying that he's no longer hearing the voices or anything, and then I hope they build up on that where the voices slowly start to return back in his head.
But I'm thinking that it'll be Alexa's voice.
I think so too. But Sister Abigail or something, where they somehow incorporate the voices that he hears this whole entire time has been the Fiend in some way or some shape or form. I would not be surprised if they find a way to make Orton incorporated into.
Well, Orton has said that it was the Fiend's voice the entire time. Orton knew that it was the Fiend's voice that he was hearing.
I wouldn't be surprised if they find a way to incorporate Orton into an alliance with the Fiend. Or or Bliss finds some way, the Bliss or the Bliss Fiend finds some way to brainwash Orton into doing the Fiend's bidding and everything,
See, I think the way that it ends up, that it'll play out, Alexa will have a Fiend version.
Yeah. Before
there will be the Bray Wyatt version. There will be something that happens, but I think we see Bray Wyatt again before we ever see the Fiend.
Oh yeah, we'll see Bray.
I feel. Well, I feel like Bray comes. I feel like the Firefly Funhouse comes back before the Fiend ever comes back, because technically he was facing the Fiend. Right. He wasn't facing Bray Wyatt. And they made sure to distinguish that the Fiend and Wyatt can be in two places, the same place at the same time.
Right.
Because you had that image of Bray Wyatt and Alexa walking back up the ramp, and then the Fiend appearing on the screen staring at the two of them.
Right. I think it's gonna build up to something where it's gonna be Randy Orton versus Bray Wyatt in a few matches or something, where Orton's gonna be, quote unquote, I guess, bullying Bray because Bray's the weaker of the two. Orton's gonna take advantage of it, and then it's gonna culminate with the return of the Fiend stepping in, bigger, stronger, and more powerful, more psychedelic, psychological, and going after Orton, and it's going to culminate in that big match in Mania.
See, I think the Orton side of things is done with for now.
Oh no.
I don't think it'll be Orton Fiend at Mania.
Oh, only time will tell, man. We'll discuss that in January.
I don't, because I think that there's something else in the works for the Fiend.
Yeah, I mean, let's see what is today. Where's my calendar?
I think it's the 22nd.
We got two more Raws technically. I think what we should do is the one that we have on the 4th, the podcast. I think maybe we should push that to the 5th, just so we can see what transpires on Raw. We can incorporate that at the beginning of it. Because the January, usually the first Raw of January of the new year culminates and leads up to the Rumble, which is 4 weeks away at that point.
I mean, we could.
Yeah, because I think January 4th Raw is going to be the big one.
I was going to say, if we had a way to watch Raw live, we could do it. We could do our prediction still on that Monday and have the audio from Raw playing and do a live reaction to Raw.
We could. We'll find.
But I don't. Yeah, that's something that we can kind of figure out.
Yeah, we'll do our research on what YouTube will allow and everything and find a way. Because I'm thinking going forward,
I
the
I know you
podcast
can
is
do
just going to be on YouTube.
I know you can do watch-alongs
Yeah.
and like have live reaction while you're watching events, and the audio can be playing. Like I know that's acceptable because I've watched several people do it.
We'll figure it out.
But yeah,
That would be
like
interesting. So, Firefly Funhouse, Firefly Inferno match. Despite the fact that it was pre-recorded and you can tell it was pre-recorded, no one really gives a shit about that. I gave this one a 10 of 10. Only because the storyline that it's going to lead up to is going to be something big. And it's going to be something interesting between everybody involved.
yeah, and like I said, I think I don't think Orton Fiend. I don't think it goes to Mania. If it does go, I think it goes to No Way Out. And I think
we may not even see Bliss as the Fiend. We may see Nikki Cross as the Fiend.
I do think that it's going to be Alexa with the whole play and pain gloves. I think those come into play somehow. Like Wyatt's hurt heel gloves.
Like Wyatt's transferred part of the Fiend into her, and she incorporates a new aspect to it. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see.
But I ended up giving this one a 9 out of 10. Not because I didn't like the story, not because I had to give it a 9 out of 10 because earlier I gave the female tag the 8. I think I said 8 out of 10, and it was because of the slip ups and stuff.
Yeah.
Same reason I couldn't give this one a 10 out of 10. The obvious cut edits.
Right.
It was just not on par with what they've been doing, and it was honestly, for me, it was disappointing. I say that saying that, you know, I'm normally devil's advocate. I've watched wrestling a long time. If I had to pick between AEW and WWE, I'd pick AEW all day long. But
it is nice to see WWE have decent stories.
This was their best pay-per-view besides Mania.
Overall, I gave the entire show a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I give it a very strong 9 out of 10.
Which is pretty impressive considering a lot of the ones in the past I've given 6, 7. So, big things in store. Hopefully they continue on this trend. I know their Raw ratings are dropping and everything, so hopefully they can build that back up. But I got until this whole COVID thing is out of the way, you know, they're going to be stuck in this downward trend.
Look, I'm gonna be honest. I think we're getting close to seeing the end of the PG-13 era.
It's got to be. You got to do something because the PG-13 is not selling anymore.
I think we're fixing to get into a newer attitude era.
TVMA. Because, I mean, if you look at a lot of the shows that are on now, they're no longer rated PG-13. They're rated TVMA for mature audiences only. So
yeah, and I don't think that they'll go complete mature audience only. I think that they will end up getting... They will get close to that MA, but it's going to have more adult-oriented themes. It's going to have more violence. It's going. Honestly, I really feel like we're fixing to see the return of blood.
Exactly. I mean, we're not going back to true Attitude Era. You're not going to see bra panty matches. You're not going to see Miss Kitty out there flashing her tatas. See again,
which we don't need. Right. You know, you don't need to take your women's division and make it backtrack.
Right. You don't need to set the women's division back 20.
You need what the old man called the competition was blood and guts. You need blood and guts.
Right. You need to focus on the men's division, improving that, because your women's division is fine. You've got good storylines. You've got the women out there working their asses off, putting on good matches to compete with the men, to the point that you've actually had, you know, women's division have main events. And you've even had an entire pay-per-view dedicated to the women within the WWE. You know, you need to leave the women's division alone. Don't make it trashy like it used to be. You know, don't turn around and treat your women like you did back in the 90s in the Attitude Era like they were objects. We're way past that. The people don't want to see that. The people want to see a good show. Give it to them. Incorporate a little more violence in your matches, you know, more weapons, you know, more somebody distracting the ref while somebody nails them with a kendo stick or a chair again. Don't hit them in the head, because that's forbidden. You know, God forbid you.
I mean, you could take a kendo stick to the head.
Yeah, because that thing flexes.
It's not going to rattle you to the point you've got a concussion.
Right. Because I think if the WWE had another Chris Benoit incident, I think there'd be no more.
Now, when I say you're going to need blood and guts, I sent you an image, right?
Yeah,
okay, so you've got a steel cage match, and you're throwing someone into a steel cage repeatedly, and there's not a single bit there's no scratch across them, and they're going head first.
Yeah, you're not selling it.
Like what? How is that believable? Right. AEW, their very first steel cage match, that was one of the most iconic images from their cage match on TNT.
Right.
This was live on TNT, and this was the image you were getting. Now Vince McMahon wanted to say that the other promotion was all blood and guts. Based off this and based off how Cody and Dustin looked from All In. Cody and Dustin from All In was a bloodbath. It was. If you've not seen it, I do have it. I'll gladly,
Yeah, I think I've seen it.
Gladly share it with you. But that's what I'm saying. Like, it was a bloodbath. And it was amazing. It was an amazing match. The blood did not take anything away from it. You're producing a sports entertainment wrestling show where you've got people, TLC, come on. You're smashing people in the head with ladders. You're swinging chairs. They're going through tables. There's this, there's that. You mean to tell me at some point someone's not going to get scratched up? We saw Roman Reigns bleeding.
Exactly.
He got cut when he went through one of the tables, and it cut him on the arm.
Right.
Alright, cool.
He probably got chewed out for that, though.
Well, I mean, all the refs did was kind of put on gloves.
Right.
They didn't really try to stop it to make sure the bleeding had stopped.
Right.
But like, it's one of those things, you didn't stop the match when any of Lesnar's matches when someone started bleeding, because people were terrified to get in there and try to stop the match while Lesnar was going.
Right.
Because there was a good chance someone was going to get punched in the face.
Right.
For real. But other matches, you see blood happen, and it's, we've got this, we've got that. Hold on, now we got to stop so we can stop the blood. No, get the hell out of the way, let them keep going.
Right.
If the blood's getting to a point where it's too bad, or where they can't see and you need to stop it, okay, stop it and get them to where they can see to intelligently defend and attack.
Right.
I agree with that aspect.
Right.
But if they're just bleeding and they're still good, they're still there, they can attack, they can defend, they can do what they need, leave them the hell alone and let them do their job.
Right.
It's blood. Shit happens. It's not ballet. It's not ballroom dancing. Shit fucking happens. Let them go. That's my opinion on it,
Exactly.
But I also come from the world of where if I was in a fight and I started bleeding, I wasn't thinking, okay, we need to stop so I can stop this blood. No, fuck that.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm bleeding. I'm bleeding. Big deal. Here, let me break your nose so you're bleeding. Like that was my mentality. If you broke my nose, alright, well, yeah, now my eyes are a little watery, everything's a little hazy, but I'm going to try to find your nose to make you the same way.
Exactly. Alright, so, the go-home portion of the show now. Upcoming pay-per-view... fuck it. upcoming schedule that we have. The next podcast is scheduled for 12/28. Will be the last podcast of the year. Will be our year-end review in wrestling, where we go over our highlights of the year from different pay-per-views, different feuds, and everything. January 4th, January 5th, one of those days, we're going to be doing predictions for wrestling in 2021. Going over what we think is going to happen within, AEW, WWE, NXT, whichever one else is out there. 111 podcast is going to be dedicated to the legendary Paul Heyman. Going over his career in the wrestling industry. From back when he was just commentary on WWE, when he was managing people, when he started up ECW, and how he handled ECW and took it from a nothing organization in arenas to a thriving organization with a weekly show and a monthly pay-per-view still in arenas. Dance halls and shit. Never moving into big name stadiums and shit. 118 podcast will be dedicated to different stables over the years. One notable stable we did a podcast a couple weeks ago was the Four Horsemen, or last week or something was the Four Horsemen. We may touch on them for a little bit, but we're probably not going to do too much on the Horsemen because we have an entire podcast dedicated. So if you're interested in that one, we're on YouTube. Our podcast is up there. Go check it out. And then 125 is the Royal Rumble review, where Sunday we're watching the Rumble, and then on that following Monday we'll be going over.
Wait a minute, there's an issue with that date.
What's up?
I think the Rumble is the 31st.
I saw it was the 21st. Is the 31st? Oh no, it's different.
Yeah, the Rumble's on the 31st this year.
Because it was 124.
No, it showed. Okay, they showed it on. Yeah, they showed it on TLC.
All right, so 125 podcast. 02/01/21. Live change it on screen. All right.
Yeah.
125 will be question mark because we don't know what we're going to go over yet. And then on February 1st, 2021, will be the Royal Rumble. After Royal Rumble. So
yeah.
If you're new to the page, you like wrestling, make sure you hit that subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications. Drop a comment. Let us know what you think of wrestling. If there's something you want us to do a review on, let us know what it is. We'll take a look at it. We'll throw a review up there. If we like the subject enough, hell, we may send you an invite and you'll be on the podcast with us and giving your take on what you like for that particular subject.
And I will say, in the coming year, 2021, anticipate maybe seeing us a little bit more doing some different things, such as potentially maybe doing live, like watching older pay-per-views and reacting to them, giving our takes live. Who knows?
Fire Pro Wrestling, where we do our own commentary for Fire Pro. We create ridiculous names for characters and everything. Ridiculous tag team title or ridiculous tag teams with crazy names and shit. We do our own commentary. So if you got something stupid you want to see us do, as long as it's within the TOS for YouTube or whatnot, we'll make it happen. Just let us know. Drop a comment.
Yeah. We're both very open to your opinions and what you'd like to see, because that's what we want to bring you.
And we both like stupid shit, so the stupider, the funnier.
This is true. This is true.
On that note, again, I am 617. I do stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/SixOneSev3n, spelled SEV3n. Maybe that might be changing. I don't know. I might be switching platforms within the coming new year and everything. On a hiatus right now. It's the end of the year. It's busy. Everything's going. Shit's hitting the fan. So can't really dedicate 100% to streaming like I want to. So I'll send it on over to my man to the left here. Let him give his outro.
I am PuppetMaster2191, aka Puppet, aka Puppet Master. You know,
AKA Hey
two one.
You.
Yeah, 2191 just kind of happened because Puppet Master was already taken on Twitch. So you can find me at twitch.tv/PuppetMaster2191. You can also find me on Twitter. Just leave off the last one.
219.
And that's because Twitter didn't like the whole. Didn't want to give me that other one.
Too many characters.
And after the start of the year, you can start finding more content for my YouTube channel, which we will touch on later. Not super worried about it. I may also be making platform switches, trying other platforms for my streaming stuff. Everything's kind of up in the air right now.
My socials and everything are just like it's spelled in the tag down below. Twitter,
Also,
YouTube, TikTok. I even have a Facebook gaming page. DLive, I'm over there. Trovo, I'm on there. Twitch, probably coming up with Glimish at the beginning of the year. Once they go live, try them out. Saturate. So
yeah, mine's already created.
Who knows, man?
But
It's bright.
My favorite part, or my favorite spill towards the end of the show. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment.
And hit that notification bell for future.
Ding ding.
We will catch you on the next show. Peace.
Peace.